How's it going, everybody? Welcome to week 4 of my Overwatch League key matchups. If you're new to this series and are curious about how it works, what I basically do each week is pick matchups that I think are worth watching, and I give a brief explanation as to why I think that way. It's very simple and straightforward, so that's pretty much it. The one thing that I did wanted to mention though before we get started is that Thursday and Friday will only have 3 games each instead of the usual 4. The earliest game of the night will be pushed back to around the time when the second game would start, which means that the pre-game watch point show will start about an hour and a half later than usual. With that out of the way, now we can take a look at this week's games. There's actually plenty of matches that should be really good, and the outcome of some of them could affect playoff implications for this stage. When taking a look at Thursday's games, they all have at least one team in each game trying to secure a playoff spot. The opening match of the night between the LA Gladiators and the Atlanta Reign has 2 teams trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. The Reign are sitting pretty sweet right now with a 3-1 record after a blowout victory against the Paris Eternal, and a win here would pretty much guarantee that they make it into the Stage 1 playoffs. Being 4-1 going into your final week where both of your games are very winnable puts this team in really good shape. When looking at this from the Gladiators' perspective, they're a team that's just barely still in the hunt for a playoff spot, and losing this game would officially eliminate them from contention. They'll need to win their next 2 games and hope that the 9 teams ahead of them right now in the standings end up performing extremely poorly if they want to even have a chance of making it. Decay versus Defran and the matchup between the tank lines should also make this game a lot of fun to watch. Game number 2 will be interesting for the sake of the Fusion. They have a good opportunity to seal a playoff spot with a win here, and playing a team like the Valiant is perfect. They're a team that's surely lacking in confidence right now after a 0-5 start to the year, and the Fusion need to take advantage of that. I will admit, however, this could end up being a trap game for them. If they come into this match too cocky, then the Valiant might use that overconfidence against them. The Valiant are hungry as ever right now for a win, and I think that if the Fusion underestimate them, then they could end up walking away with the win here. Pay attention to the main support and flex support matchup here. The final game of the night will be the Toronto Defiant and the Chengdu Hunters. Toronto is in the same boat that the Fusion are in coming into this one, because winning this game would put them at a 4-2 record, which would help their playoff chances a lot. The Defiant need to dominate this game though, because they really do need to improve their map differential. They currently have a map differential of 0, and if a team that finishes with the same record as them has the better differential, then that could be the thing that keeps them from going to the playoffs. Winning this game big is very important for them. The Hunters are technically still in the playoff race as well, but it's not likely that they're going to make it because of how hard their schedule is and the fact that they only have a 2-3 record. I also recommend tuning in for this game though, just because the Hunters are actually a really fun team to watch. They like to play a lot of unusual comps, and who doesn't enjoy seeing some of the out of the ordinary comps every once in a while? It's really refreshing to get a break from some of those comps that we see all the time, aka GOATs. That's basically everything I wanted to say about Thursday's games, so now let's move on to Friday, and let me say that this day is looking like it's going to be a fantastic night of pro Overwatch to be a part of. All 3 games are looking really good on paper. Game 1 between the Paris Eternal and the Vancouver Titans has Game of the Week potential written all over it. Both teams are regarded by many as 2 of the best at GOATs, and if that holds up to be true, then we should be in for a treat with this game. I personally think this game comes down to whether or not BenBest, Finzi, and Soon are able to keep up with the legendary tank line of Vancouver. This game is also important for both teams when it comes to the playoffs though. Paris has some tough games in these last 2 weeks of the stage, and getting a W against the Titans would be huge for them. The Titans, on the other hand, really just need one more win to punch their ticket to the playoffs, but they're also trying to keep up with the NYXL for the #1 seed at the same time, and they're going to have to continue winning if they want any sort of chance of passing them for it. And I personally think there's a good chance that both teams end up going 7-0 this stage, and if that's the case, then it's going to come down to whoever has the better map differential. They're currently behind the NYXL in that category by 3, and I think that a 4-0 or a 3-1 victory against the Eternal would certainly help them out there. The NYXL versus San Francisco Shock is another good one that you definitely don't want to miss out on. There's so many fun matchups in this one. Jonek versus Violet, Sinatra versus Nene, and Super versus Mano are the ones that stand out the most if you ask me. This is the last game for New York, and a blowout victory is needed if they hope to keep their map differential out of the reach for the Titans. Winning easily against one of the better teams in the league would be a great way for this team to finish up the stage, and it would surely give them some momentum going into the playoffs. This game is looking very important for the Shock. Their final 2 games are not easy, and with them only being 3-2 right now, it's crucial that they win at least one of them. They're currently sitting at 4th place in the standings, but there's a lot of teams breathing right down their necks, so they can't afford to lose it all. Beating the NYXL is a tough task, but it's a doable one. Let's see if the Shock are able to live up to that hype they've been receiving since the preseason. The final match of Friday night is a rematch of last week's thriller between the Dallas Fuel and the Shanghai Dragons. I'm sure the Dragons are just itching to get some revenge against the Fuel, especially after that embarrassing C9 on Dorado. Both teams also technically had the chance to make it into the playoffs, with the Fuel looking to be in better shape since they have one more win than the Dragons do. I'd love to see either of these teams make it into the playoffs. We'd get to witness history if the Dragons made it, and the Fuel would technically make their second straight playoff appearance if you count Stage 4 from last year. Saturday follows the same trend as Thursday and Friday since there's plenty of games with playoff implications on the line. Game number 1 is important for the Outlaws. Losing this game against the Valiant would all but ruin any sort of chance of them making the playoffs, so it's do or die for them here. All the pressure is on them. The Valiant already missed the cut, so they're pretty much playing for pride in this one. I actually think this game has the potential to be really good though. Both teams have struggled in this stage so far, so there's a good chance it ends up being a pretty evenly matched game. The Guangzhou Charge and the LA Gladiators is also pretty intriguing. The Charge have looked pretty solid through their first 5 games and find themselves near the top of the standings. With their last game being against the Titans next week, this is a game the Charge cannot afford to lose. There's a good chance that going 4-3 with a good map differential is going to be enough to propel you into the playoffs, so they should be in pretty good shape if they can win at least one of their last 2 games. The Gladiators could potentially still be in the hunt as well on Saturday if everything goes in their favor, so this could end up being an important matchup for them as well. Pay close attention to the flex support battle between Shu and Shaz here. Both of them have been popping off this stage, so it should be a fun one to watch. And lastly, we have the Hangzhou Spark and the Toronto Defiant to finish off the night. Whoever wins this game could be in a good position to make the stage playoffs, while the team that loses could end up missing the cut because of it. This is the last game of the stage for each team, and it's an important one for both of them. I would definitely be nervous if I was a fan of the Spark coming into this one. I don't think you'll like your chances of making the playoffs if you go 3-4. If the Defiant end up winning both of their games this week, then they'll be sitting pretty at 5-3. Losing this one, however, could put their playoff chances in jeopardy. Keep an eye on that map differential. It'll more than likely be a major factor in deciding who makes the cut. Sunday's matches are a bit lighter from an entertainment aspect. The only exciting game in my opinion is the Eternal and Shock. 2 of the top teams in the league facing off in a super important matchup that could decide playoff seeding and who ends up making it in general should make this fun to watch. The other games have more of the same storylines coming into them, but I don't think any of them end up being that close, sadly. You could probably just get away with checking the score and watching the highlights for them. If I was forced to pick another game to watch though, then I guess I'd go with the third match of the day. The Uprising still have a small window of opportunity to qualify for the playoffs, and they're going to have to win this game in order to avoid elimination. And with that being said, that's pretty much it. Those are the games that I recommend watching this week. There's some pretty interesting games coming on, and the playoff picture will look a lot clearer after this week for sure. Feel free to tell me which games you're looking forward to down in the comment section, and also make sure to let me know if you think I missed any important games. If you enjoyed today's video, then make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new so you don't miss out on any of my future content. Thank you all so much for watching today's video, and until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.